So a couple things we're going to do here. First, I've set my depth stop with this little guide right here with how deep we want it to go. So now, when we plunge, it'll bottom out right there, and it won't let me go any deeper with my router. I've got some double-sided tape here. This is carpet tape. So now I got those on there. I'm going to pull these off and I'm going to turn this over. And I've already I cut 2 boards at the same time when I did this pattern. So now we're going to turn this over. And we're going to see if we can line it up here.
So you may be thinking, I think I've already seen this before, and if you saw my last video, then you have. This is, I'm picking up right where the last video kind of ended off at, where I was showing using the template in place. If you didn't see the last video, you're probably wondering, well, I wanted to see how to make a WaHoo board, what is this here? Well, I actually have a whole video dedicated to making this template you can check out. The link will be in the description below, or you can look on my channel and you'll see the video that I just uploaded a couple weeks ago. So as you can see, I'm using the same outtake from the last video I uploaded here and just showing how quickly you can knock out making one of these with your router after you have this template cut. So we're going to pick up right here where we're going to go ahead and have the board completely done, all the holes drilled or cut out with this router bit, and then we're ready to add our border to it, and that's what we'll start doing after this. Again, if you have questions about this template, you can download the template on my website for free to make your own template, and then you'll be able to make these over and over again. But you can go to my website and check that out, and you can also watch the video I uploaded before this one to see exactly how to do this.
I went back and double checked, and all in total there was 3 that I missed, 2 here and 1 here. So I went ahead and did those. Now we're ready to pull this apart. And this is exactly why I said not to use a lot, because that stuff is very sticky. What I have here is a rough cut, or I say rough cut. It's a piece of cedar from Home Depot, I think is where it came from. And it has rough edges. So I'm going to put this through my planer, probably once on each side to kind of clean up and smooth that surface. Go to the table saw, we're going to cut this up, and we're going to use this cedar to make a nice border to go around this WaHoo board. So my recommendation any time that you're making a frame, and we're making a frame right now for the WaHoo board, is to start wide with your frame and work your way in. You can always trim off a little more. You can't add any back on. So I'm going to start with the frame that will fit around the entire WaHoo board, and then we'll cut our rabbets and work it down a little by little until we get a good fit on it. So I'm back at the table saw. I've installed my dado blades, and I haven't plugged my saw in yet. I just installed it. I always recommend when you change out your dados, you always unplug your saw. Anytime you change the blade, you always unplug your saw. I got 2 extra pieces here of my stock. Make a mark on what I'm calling the top side. Okay, why is that important? Because, and I'm doing the same thing on my main stock. I'm making a mark on the top so I know which one is the top. Okay, so I've made marks on them all. The reason we're doing that is because my plywood is probably 15-30 seconds, so a little bit less than a half an inch. And my dado stack does not give a chart for 15-30 seconds. Not only that, since I know I'm not going to be able to, it's not an exact measurement, meaning it's not exactly half an inch or quarter or 3/4, I'd rather go ahead and make my dados smaller, make my first pass, make sure it works, it's not too big I mean, slightly move my fence over, and then make my second pass. What's important is you need both of your stocks in case you make a mistake.
One thing that's really important to remember is for my stock and for what I did here is I put the side that I marked against my fence. I measured for how much of a gap I wanted at the top of the board between the rail and the board. So we're fixing to move the fence and make these same cuts again. I'm actually going to have to do that twice in order to get a good fit for the WaHoo board to fit in. But again, it's so important that you make sure that you put your mark against the fence. Or that's how I did it. If you're not going to put it against the fence, you need to put it the opposite on all your pieces.
And it will actually fit in there, but it is very tight. So that's a little bit too tight for a game board. So we're going to move it just slightly, I mean very little. And we're going to run it through there again. And it's still a very tight fit. However, I think I like this fit here.
Finally, we'll make our final cut on our last couple of boards, and then we're ready to start assembling this thing.
So your next question may be, how do you know if you have, you cut these too big, how do we know how much to cut off of these? Well, it's pretty easy. What you're going to do is you're going to put your piece in here, and you want to line up where the corner, I put this white piece of paper hoping that helps offset it. Offset the darkness. As you want this corner of your plywood or your WaHoo board to line up with this where the dado stops, so that when you put your next piece on here, it will line up the same way all the way down. And again, like for mine, I put the marks on the top side, so you want to make sure your marks are facing the same direction on all of them. This piece is definitely longer, which we knew it was. So I'm going to make a little mark here. That's very close there. For a WaHoo board that I'm going to glue this in place, I can live with that. And it took me probably 3 or 4 tries. But what I've done over here is I've set my stop block here. And now I'm going to cut the rest of them.
Because of how thin the veneer is on the plywood, I only hand sanded the plywood.
And then we'll put a little bit on the ends. The main thing is you don't want a lot of squeeze out, because that just means you're going to have a lot of cleanup in a minute.
Glue isn't super important, so just putting enough in there to help hold this thing together will be all you need to do. This thing's not going to move after you get it together. a simple round over with my trim router, and then I'm going to go back and sand, and this thing is ready to apply finish.
I've decided I'm going to go with bull linseed oil on this. I think I mentioned spray lacquer, but I think I just want to go with an oil on this. I'm just going to pour some out here and just mix it around. So this board is finished, and boy does it look great. This has the boiled linseed oil on this one, and it turned out great with that cedar trim. Looks great. That's the one we just finished making. I told you guys it was pretty easy, and I got a video or a clip coming here at the end of this one showing you how quickly you can knock these boards out by building that pattern wherever. Mine's over behind me now. This one's finished as well. It is this one has Danish oil on it, and it is like a medium walnut tint. Then this one here is just has spray lacquer on it. That's all. And I actually I painted the colors to go with. So all of these boards just really look great. I mean, especially this one with the trim around it, it looks just great. These things are so easy to knock out. Like I said, you make a pattern like we did in the last video, and then you can knock these out in about 5 minutes after you cut the board. And then it's just finishing it after that, or sanding and then finishing. So 2 of these don't even have trim on them, so you don't even have to put this trim on there. This takes a little bit longer to do it this way, but just doing one like this, I mean, you can have it done in an afternoon probably. If this happens to be your first video you've seen of mine, make sure you click that subscribe button. And if you're curious what I'm talking about for the pattern, go and check the last video. The last video I uploaded showed you how to make the pattern. This one we made this exact board. And then I cut out some more of these here, which you'll see that clip here in a second. Thanks again for watching, and as always, y'all will see me next time.
I know I mentioned that if you're going to make one of these, it's just as easy to make 2 or 3 as it is to make one. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing here. Is I'm cutting up boards so I can make several of these, and I'll show them to you here in just a minute, the ones that I've made so far. I think one sheet of plywood with the 18.5 by 18.5 square frame will do 10 of these. So if you're looking to make money, this is a good way to make some extra cash.